Tonight we have an unscripted show for you. We're going to talk about the Fanatically Real redraft playoff schedule. What does the 2022 Fanatically Real redraft leagues look like? And we have some membership, art, and other league updates for you. All this in 20 seconds. Hey, fellow fanatics, welcome to the Fanatically Real broadcast sponsored by Football, Darts, and Fantasy Sports Alliance. I hear some guys milling around in the background. We might as well go ahead and get them. Well, I was trying to get them in here. I don't know what the heck happened. What are we doing right now? Here we go. Or you're all out of order, too. We rehearsed this and practiced this before the show. You think we'd have this down by now. What's up, guys? How are you?
I am doing just dandy. Another day in paradise.
How was your day?
Today was good. Today was a busy day. You know, phone calls, emails, come home, beat a 12-year-old in basketball. You know, the usual.
Like live basketball, like you were actually shooting hoop?
Yes, I'm active sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah, but 12 years old.
Yeah.
And you're very proud of that, too, the way you said it, too.
Oh, trust me, I am.
I mean, you're like 5'10", 5'11", aren't you?
Yeah,
5'10". How old's the 12-year-old? Or how tall?
Maybe 5 foot.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, way to go there. Josh, how was your day?
Work, and more work. Definitely a busy day. Glad to be home.
How's the job been going?
It's been going. Definitely exhausted every day. Hurts to bend my fingers and pretty much move everything else.
Yeah, it's a thankless job for sure. Hey, before we get too deep into the Kevin said, Heather says that's just wrong. Way to go, Kevin. Way to beat up on a 12-year-old.
Oh wow. Real
What's
quick,
up?
I would like to mention, did StreamYard get an update?
Why? What did they do?
Because look at the comments.
Oh, that's fancy.
I think it's just because the setting has changed. That was the last update. We just didn't use it.
Is that what the default one looks like now?
Yeah.
Is it? Interesting. Yeah, I guess we all did miss that. At least I know I missed it. Oh, okay. So we'll go back to the bubble one. That's what it looks like. Yeah. Go back to now that we've got the screen set up like this. What did the other one look like? Hope you all enjoy the new look of the screen here too, by the way.
Minimal.
This was painstaking for me to put this together today. So when you did that, when Heather's popped up, was hers the same way? Did it shrink our screen down?
Yeah, but I believe we can fix that later on to make it to where the screens don't move. Okay.
All right. That's cool. We'll have to change that then. I think you're right. The only problem is it's going to pop up right over Josh's eyes every time when we do it now. But that's okay. All he has to do is lower or raise the chair. We'll be okay. Good evening. Bob Reddick out there with the new Red Cox logo. That looks really good. I like that one. Hey, before we get too deep into this, let's thank our broadcast sponsor, Football Darts. Football Darts is a dart game that combines the skill of traditional darts with the strategies of American football. This innovative dart game is played on a uniquely designed multiple target dartboard. It can be played in sports bars, at tailgate events, as league tournaments, or as a leisure activity in the comfort of your home. If you would like to check out their officially licensed collegiate dartboards, go to footballdarts.com, enter the promo code IPLAYFSA. You see it coming across the bottom right now. You get 30% off your order. Included with a dartboard will be 4 darts, pins for positions, a rule book, and everything you need to play right out of the box. And also, they are a sponsor for us this year. So if you happen to win the game that they are sponsoring, you will get a custom Football Darts dartboard with your team's brand on it. And let's also talk about our friends over at the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast. So the guys did a great show this past weekend where they did like a memory lane show. They started off going over some great NFL news where they talked about players like Corey Davis, Tim Tebow, Le'Veon Bell, Julio Jones, Todd Gurley, Adam Vinatieri, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, and Aaron Rodgers. And then they did a flashback to some of their favorite players and some of the better fantasy seasons had by players in yesteryear. So I do appreciate them bringing up Matt Forte, Brandon Marshall, and Curtis Martin, all great players that I like, not just because they were Jets players at one point, but for other obvious reasons as well. And if you're not already listening to Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast, you're doing fantasy football wrong. You can find them on all the social media outlets at Empty Wagon FF. And each one of them has their own Twitter handle, which is coming across the bottom of your screen right now. And then if all else fails, you can always go out to our website at fsa-fr.com and find out all the information that you want about the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast. So you guys did not do a show last night because we're all here together tonight. And then I'm not going to be on, or we're not going to be on with the Fanatically Real broadcast next week because we're all going to get together for an Average Bro show next week. And Kevin, what are we going to be talking about next week?
Next week, we are going to cover Alpha through Delta Dynasty rookie drafts, do a little review of the teams, how the drafts went, maybe take a dive into some of the trades that went down in each one that shaped each individual team, and do that for Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta.
Cool. And then we're going to carry that for 2 weeks, right? So we're going to do Alpha through Delta in 1 week, and then the following week, we're going to try to make sure we can squeeze in both Echo and Foxtrot into one show and do the same thing with the bigger, wider startup drafts. Eric says, listen to the Empty Wagon crew at your own peril. Now, you guys did a great job this past week. I thought it was a great show. A lot of the names you guys brought up down memory lane did definitely spark a lot of memories. And it's funny when I hear you guys talk about, the very first years that I was playing fantasy football in the year 2000. And we go so much further back than that. Some of the guys that I wanted to bring up, I'm sure you guys wouldn't even remember who they were. I'd love to pull up rosters from those first teams in 1995. That'd be a lot of fun to talk about those guys then too. You guys definitely had a good time going down memory lane. It was a lot of fun to watch you guys' faces light up and talk about those old players and stuff. And I like that you guys brought up Adam Vinatieri. And I know Josh, before we went live, showed us a picture of what Tom Brady looked like when he first started playing with New England on video games. I'm guessing those were two side-by-side screenshots of Madden, I guess it was.
Yeah.
And then what Brady looks like now. And somebody else had done something on social media earlier this week with Adam Vinatieri as well, and what he looked like when he was first on a game and then what he looks like now. That's pretty funny. So one of the things we said that we were going to talk about was membership updates. So we haven't been on air. The Fanatically Real broadcast hasn't been on air for 2 weeks. Not a lot of action going on right now. I think we're getting ready to hit that, come up over the hump whenever everybody's going to start looking at redraft stuff, though, because we've kind of got to the point where the dynasty leagues are starting to fade off a little bit. But we did pick up 2 more people for the redraft league over the last 2 weeks. So we're sitting at 81 teams, which right now is the largest amount of teams that we've ever had in redraft in FSA history. So the goal is still 96, 15 spots still left. I want to thank Damian. I think he's out there watching us right now for doing a really hard push on social media for us today on Twitter. I know we got a lot of action on Twitter today because of it. So I do appreciate that. A couple new follows, us following people and them following us. So hopefully we'll get some people from that. So redraft is first come, first serve right now. So it's wide open, anybody who wants to get in. I think we've given enough opportunities for the teams that were here with us in 2020 to roll over into 2021. It's time to start getting either fresh or old blood in there, but we got to make it happen one way or another. So that takes us to a total of 196 teams now total across all of the platforms of FSA. And I like that number, 196. What happened to Josh? Where'd he go?
He had an emergency he had to take care of.
Okay.
He will possibly be back in later on in the show. But as you were mentioning, we do have redraft open and ongoing. We also have our other leagues. Don't forget about Arm and Leg League back again this year, and the Referring Veterans DoD League, both full go, all still open, all still have spots open. So.
Also, you've got 3 more spots in the Auction IDP League as well. So 3 more spots there. Stan, how are you? Welcome. We appreciate you being here. Yeah, definitely the QB54 Arm and Leg League is open. We're sitting at 20 members of it right now. The hope is 54 on that one. Really easy to get in on that one. Super cheap to get in. Only $20 to get in. A fun league. You're only playing with quarterbacks and kickers in that one. Changing the rule set a little bit this year and the way the playoffs look this year as well. So points will be decimals this year, so it should cut down on the number of ties like we had last year, even though ties were a fun part of it. And then the VRV DoD League. Was kind of hoping to have Justin Clark, the founder of VRV, on with us tonight. We just haven't been able to get back in contact with each other this week. So sometime soon we'll get him on here, the owner of the VRV, with us, and we'll have a nice little chat with him. So that one is open to former military and current serving military members. So if you're interested in playing and that suits you or that is you, please hit us up and we'll get you in that league. All right. So we're going to get to the unscripted part. I think the whole show was supposed to be unscripted, right? But I think I read a lot of that off of a short script that I typed up this morning before we were going to go live.
And Brian's audio is out again. More issues. So for the part that Brian was probably about to get ready to say is we'll get into the meat and bones of this week's episode, talk about redraft, a continuation of a conversation that we had a week ago, or the last episode, I should say. And then again throughout the Discord is what happens with weeks 17 and 18 now that the NFL schedule changes. What does that look like for FSA this year as far as competition goes, and how do we plan for that moving forward in years to come? So, Brian, if you want to tell the masses.
Yeah, I'm back on now. I mean, thank you for letting me know when the audio goes out, because it's so delayed on my side that I don't know that it goes out. So we had a nice conversation. I think it was yesterday, you and I did. Quite a long conversation about what does that look like, because we had a long conversation over Discord, like you said. It ate up the majority of the last show that we did here on the Fanatic Real broadcast as well. And for those of you that have been with us for a while and know me, it takes just that one little aha moment for me, and I go, that's it, and that's the way we're going to go with it because it makes the most sense, right? And you gave that to me yesterday during our conversation. So we were trying to figure out, are we going to do an interleague game this year? Are we going to do these creative, clever playoffs with the 500 above 500 teams in each one of the regions, allowing it to be anywhere between 5 and 8 teams in each one of the regions? So it'd be different playoffs per regions. And then, we had the concern of people trying to figure out what does week 17 and 18 look like in the playoffs for everybody. But you came up with it best yesterday when we had the conversation. It had nothing to do with 2021. It is, what does FSA redraft look like in 2022, a year from now or a season from now, and what does that look like? So as we just mentioned with the membership a few minutes ago, we're going to reach 96 this year. I have no doubts that we're going to reach 96 this year, right? We're only 15 away right now, and we're sitting in the second day of June, and the season doesn't start for another 90 plus days. So I have no doubts that we'll hit 96. So your thought process, well, what does 2022 look like when we want to expand the redraft league beyond 96? And give a little bit of your thoughts of where you were going with that when we talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, so it's actually a couple of points all kind of balled up into one, right? So obviously the FSA is always looking to grow the community, grow the fan base, grow just in general. And how we do that is by either A, adding leagues or expanding leagues. So Brian's brainchild of FSA is the redraft league. And it had started out with 16 total regions in this mythological creature themed league. And what I'm going to do here is actually share this first. That way you can see it. So everybody sees this. Everyone knows what this map is across our Facebook page, right? We have all of these different regions, but not everyone plays in these regions. Well, in our thought process is, well, how do we get those other ones involved? How do we use up all the hard work that you put in for the past 25 years to build this thing out and this idea? Because just adding, another region doesn't really help you out anything. We really need to double it. So we take 8 12-man or 8 sets of 12 for a total of 296s. So basically duplicating exactly what we're doing this year over to next year to use every regional icon that we have. But how does that look like when you move into actual competition? Because that means that you would now have to have 2 separate quote unquote conference champions play for a league champion. And where does that fall? So that kind of led into the idea of, well, we can't really do that in 18. We can't extend another week into the season because that's the no week. That's the known week that people are going to be sat versus a question mark in 17. So in order to do that, Brian, I think we said that it would be best to keep competition as it stands. If you played in FSA last year, it will be the same exact regular season and postseason weeks. The competition is going to look a little bit different as far as the teams outside of the regional playoffs. Those will be put into separate brackets to play for more prizes and continue their season. But internally, the top 4 will still go from each region to the playoffs and so on.
So basically, saying all of that to say this, if you go out to the rule set on the redraft page right now, what you see there is exactly the rule set we're going to go off of. And we made no changes to that rule set. So the reason we keep it exactly the same this year is so when we expand past 96 and we do have these 2 conferences of 8 regions of 12 teams for 96 or 96 times 2, we will be able to have a game at the end where we will have these 2 conferences play against each other in week 17. And the way to allow that to happen is if we don't change the way the competition is set up this year, and competition ends in week 16 this year for our Fanatically Real Bowl for what we have now. That way we can do the combined world championship, the true world championship, because now we've expanded to 2 more, or another conference, 2 conferences total. We play that in week 17. So basically, what does that look like regular season and playoffs? Regular season still 11 weeks long. The top 4 teams, Kevin, that you just mentioned from each one of the regions will go on to play in a 4-team playoff, which will be weeks 12 and 13. And then the first round of the World Championship will be 14. And they will play weeks 14, 15, and 16, 3 weeks to satisfy the 8 teams, each one of the regional champions. Now, we realize what that does with bye weeks going all the way out to 14. However, I think the majority of the people that were having the conversation with us on Discord said they would rather deal with the known bye weeks rather than deal with the unknown week 17 for this year. So what that does is it allows us to also see what week 17 is going to look like this year, so we can figure out what that's going to look like for the World Championship for 2022. And did I say all of that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
A couple of notes just to add into it as we're forecasting into next year and how that looks, right? It looks like we have no doubts to hit 96 this year with only 15 left and plenty of time to do so. Next year's goal is 296s out the gate. Now, saying that we will hit it is not guaranteed, but the goal is the 296s. So any home leagues we can get to add in, we can do so. It also gives us a little bit of the ability to move the regions around a bit because we are going to drop the locational connotation. So it will be the Black Bear region, not the Appalachian Black Bear region, to where if there's a couple of players that you have met through FSA or elsewhere that don't necessarily live close to you, you can now play with them to fill them out because we're going to have to fill, uh, 16 regions anyway. So there's plenty of room to go around.
So what that's going to look like?
Answer,
Yep, go ahead.
To answer Damien's question, they are looking at that, but it is not until post 2025. They said is the earliest that could happen. So we have a few years.
I think the only thing that's going to mess that up is something Ross and I talked about today when him and I were on the phone, is the NFL looking into possibly doing 2 bye weeks during the season and pushing the season out to 19 weeks of season with 2 bye weeks, and they're still only playing 17 games. So that's also a possibility that they're looking into.
So they were also talking about removing the preseason games
completely
because they knocked it from 4 to 2.
Yep.
So you would remove those 2 and you would start earlier.
Yep.
You would basically be starting in August, and you would be making combined OTAs and mini camps to where teams would be allowed to, you could scrimmage just like you would in a high school game, basically.
Yep.
But it wouldn't be televised. It wouldn't be anything like that. It would just be do it on your own.
Damien says 2 bye weeks just sounds horrible for fantasy. There's another conversation Ross and I had, and he says that he doesn't remember it because he doesn't think he was doing fantasy at that time. But there was a season since FSA has been around where they actually did do 2 bye weeks for a year, and it was pretty bad for fantasy. And I'd have to actually go back and find out what year that was, because as we had the conversation today, I couldn't remember what year it was. So to go back to a point that Kevin made with the regions dropping the actual location designator of where they're at, no longer are we going to have South Atlantic, Appalachian, New England and stuff like that. We're just going to have the mascot itself, the Phoenix, the Black Bears, the Dragons and stuff like that. It allows us to use all 16 of the created regions. So no longer will we have, this will be the last year where we'll see multiple dragons. So that, this year I think we're still going to probably end up with gold dragons and red dragons. But this will be the last year that we do that. And I just want to keep it same as what we came into the season with, knowing that that's what we're going to do versus changing it right now. Yeah. But we won't see that anymore. But what we will do is, like Kevin said, if you play with somebody in another league or somebody else in the country, we can bring them into a region with you. We're still internally going to keep you with that group of people that used to be or was that group of Appalachian, Great Lakes, Central, Southwest, South Atlantic. If you live in those regions, that the way they're designated now, we will still put you in that group with the wants and hopes and dreams and wishes that one day we'll still be able to do those in-season get-togethers, postseason get-togethers, preseason get-togethers with the people that are in your areas, draft parties and as well. With me just coming back from Gatlinburg, walking around the strip there in Gatlinburg, for those who have been there before, you know what I'm talking about. They have a convention center that's there. In fact, the very first time I was ever in Gatlinburg, I was in that convention center watching my sister do a national dance competition. And I thought about that. I said, you know what, with where Gatlinburg is located, I'm right on the corner of about 4 regions. We've got Mid-Atlantic. We've got the Great Lakes, not too terribly far away. We got the Appalachian itself, and then we got the South Atlantic Dragons. Could you imagine having 4 live drafts in Gatlinburg with families at the convention center there? That would be super cool, because then you would have the strip to be able to do all of the things after we got done doing the draft or before the draft or whatever. So thought process maybe for many years down the road that we could do something like that. But it was an awesome experience. It had been 15 years, 16 years since the last time I was in Gatlinburg. So not much has changed. A few new attractions, a few new restaurants and stuff like that. But it's a super good time.
I'm just going to go out and say it ahead of time. I'm going to try to be the first person to win the World Bowl from both East and West conferences.
So I'm glad you brought the East and West Conference thing up. So let's kind of break that up to what people are trying to think of right now. Let's say you said right out the gate, we're already looking for 96 for next year, right? So we're looking at 192 total for redraft. So what does that look like the way we're going to split it up? So we're still going to use the traditional look at the map sense that we have out there. You know, when I created these regions and these creatures, these characters for these regions all of the years ago, my original thought was only 14. And in my brain, that was going to be 7 to the west and 7 to the east. Because back then, whenever I created these, I thought the NFL was still missing the opportunity to take 7 teams to the playoffs from each one of the conferences, which is why I was going with 14. Granted, we saw it for the first time last year, right? But I had this thought in 2015 that I thought the NFL should be leaning that way. So that's why I created 14. The two outside the continental United States was our Asia region and our European region. Never in a million years did I think we would ever expand into Canada before we hit either one of those two regions. So, came along the two Canadian regions, West and East, and now we have 16 regions. So the way it would be broken down is we would still think of these conferences as a West and an East. And the way it'd be broken down is, of course, West Canada is in the West, East Canada is in the East. Asia would actually fall in the West, and Europe would fall in the East. And the way the continental United States would be broken then, if you look at that regional map that Kevin had up there. Kevin, can you bring it back up and people kind of get a graphical view of it? Basically straight down the Mississippi River. The only one that's changed a little bit when you're looking at that, of course, we know that the Mississippi River splits Louisiana and Mississippi. But in that case, because of the way the Gulf Coast region is broken down, the entire Gulf Coast region would still fall over on the east side. So what are we looking at for the east? That would be Europe, East Canada, the Phoenix, the Krakens, the Hydras, the Black Bears, the Dragons, and the Serpents. And I don't know why I couldn't think of the Hydras. I kept thinking Ravens, not even close to a Raven. I don't know what was going on in my head. And then your west side, looking at it coming back, would be whatever that Asian region is going to be named. And we're closer to having a name for that now. The lynx, the Sasquatch, the wild boars, the bighorns, the scorpions, the minotaurs, and the nightmares would be your west. So the question was, are we going to lose the term regional champion? It's a very good that's a very good question, Damien. I would love to have you in on that conversation that Kevin and I had yesterday, because I've got a list of like 7 or 8 different connotations that we can use for what is the new thing going to be called. There'll still be regions, but the region won't really particularly have a name. It'll have a mascot now, right? So the Kraken region, the Phoenix region, the Dragons region.
Yeah, so the way that it's going to look, Damien, is going to be identical to how it is now, except whereas last year the Crispets were the world champion, they would become the Eastern Conference champion. And then there would be a second set of 8 that does not currently exist, where somebody would become the Western Conference champion. Those 2 conference champions play for the Alliance World title in week 17. But so to answer the question, yes, you still do go through regional playoffs.
And I know we're using the term conference right now, and I hope that doesn't confuse anybody, because Kevin and I had a long conversation of what does that new term of the bigger mass need to be. And we have a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different terms that could be used for it. So we came up with territory, zone, conference, sphere, league, association, and union. So hearing those, of the 10 of you that are out there watching us live right now, if you like a term better than conference, If you like territory, zone, sphere, league, association, union, let us know, because I want it to make sense to the masses who don't know. And that's kind of why we're using conference right now, because I think conference is probably a very familiar term to everybody. I still am kind of wrapping my head around, is conference really bigger than a region, which is why I was always iffy about using conference as the bigger element, or with using conference at all, because I was really trying to do something different that already wasn't used in sports, like college has, like NCAA has for their conferences.
So Stan has a good question here. And then we're talking about how the leagues lay out, right? So after the NFL season ends, the regular season that is, we crown our champion. What do we do for the playoffs? And I know you will answer that probably best.
I sure will. So, Stan, we do something that is away from MFL and is kind of away from FSA itself as well. So, NFL.com has the NFL Playoff Challenge, and we've done it for the last 4 or 5 years. Is the last 2 or 3 years that we've actually made it worth something to FSA. So we do the NFL.com Playoff Challenge, which in my opinion is the best playoff challenge that's out there of all of these WYSIWYG sites that offer something like this. We do that, and the winner of that playoff challenge gets a free membership to FSA the following year. So it is not required for you to play. I think last year we had 30 of the 72 teams play. So you're not required to was a little bit more than that. It doesn't cost you anything to get into. It's free, and you're playing for a chance to have a free membership for the next year. So if you've ever played in the NFL.com Playoff Challenge, that's what we use to do the playoffs. I like it a lot. It's a lot of fun. And like I said, I think it's the best one that's on the market. I see Ross checking in with us. Ross is supposed to be out on the ball fields with the kids right now all the way until 10 o'clock Central Time. So I do appreciate him chiming in, because I know he should be busy doing that kind of stuff. He says region, but Ross, you got to let me know what the region is referring to. Do we keep the region name for each one of what we consider our regions now? What do we call the bigger element above that? Is it included in the package of person? Absolutely. So
yes.
It doesn't cost. Yeah. It doesn't cost you anything to get into. It's an addition to. Like I said, you don't have to play into it at all if you don't want to. Kevin said we had more than 30 people last year, so not everybody plays, but it's a free membership and it costs you nothing to play. So you might as well get into it. So what I do is I send a link out to everybody over on Discord. This year we use Discord. Last year we used GroupMe. And I think I sent it out through the email list as well. Join if you want to join. Don't join if you don't want to join. But we do have some good fun. And Damien said, who was the winner last year? Who did win it last year? I'm trying to remember who I gave the free membership to.
That I don't remember off the top of my head.
I think it was Randy. I think Randy won it. And then I think Randy ended up still paying for his membership this year, forgetting that he had won it. So we ended up working a deal to make sure that half of his dynasty team was paid with that $50 that he already paid into. So I think Randy did win it last year. So I know Todd won it last year, I think it was, or the year before Randy. So Randy won it last year. Yeah. Todd won it the year before. I won it the year before that by a point over Brian Lewis. And I thought it's definitely not fair for me to take a free membership. I pay every year anyways. I'm going to give it to the guy who was second. So that was Brian Lewis. And I think that was the first year we did it for a free membership, was the year that Brian ended up taking it. Maybe there was 1 year prior to that. I don't remember. I have to go back and look. I think the NFL.com does keep the playoff challenge previous years out there. Ooh, Ross. That's a great suggestion. I got super excited when I read that. Kevin hates it. I can already see it on his face. I like that. I like how it keeps with the theme, though. I like it a lot. The geek in me coming out. All right, what else do we want to talk about for the Fanatic and Real redraft playoffs, the Fanatic and Real redraft for 2022, and any of the other leagues before I get into my little happy accident with the art and the logos that we purchased over the last 2 months, so I can get that out of the way.
I think that's about it. Membership cost for next year.
Good call.
And how you sign up next year.
So next year we will be going away from doing PayPal. We will be using League Safe next year. We've already got it set up for all of the dynasties right now. For the people who have already traded away their first round picks for 2022, they already have to pay in for next year. That's already out on League Safe, right? So we'll be using League Safe for redraft next year as well. And we are going to get away from the different price levels for veterans that are asking for a rebrand, and the rookies, because it's super confusing for the people that don't know how FSA operates. So it's going to be a flat $60 regardless for membership fee for redraft next year. So all leagues that are not dynasty leagues, minus the QB54 arm and leg league, which will always stay super cheap because we don't want it to cost you an arm and a leg. All other leagues are going to be $60. Be so much easier to recruit new members with League Safe. And I agree, Damien, and Kevin absolutely agrees with you, which is why we decided to switch over to it, because a lot of people are scared to come on board with FSA because we don't have League Safe. So I think it'd be much easier. Plus, we can recruit off of League Safe because we use it as well.
Yeah.
So it's a nice recruiting tool for us too. So, all right, Stan, arm and leg league details. All right, so let me give you what it looks like last year, because we're still gray area on some of the rules this year, right? So QB54 Arm and Leg League, the reason we call it QB54, so they are the sponsors of the Arm and Leg League. If you don't know what QB54 is, go out and Google that. They are the sponsor. They make this great game that is like cornhole, but don't call it cornhole in front of the guys, because if you watch the latest video that they published on social media today, they're out there with sledgehammers breaking up cornhole boards because it's not cornhole. But think about that in the sense of you have two chairs that are separated, that have field goal posts on the back of it. The seat opens up that has like a basketball style hoop in it. You got a miniature football in it, and you're throwing that miniature football back and forth to try to get it in a hoop. Get it in a hoop, it's worth 6 points. Hit the chair, it's worth 3 points. Hit the chair and somebody picks it off, interception, it's 3 points for the other team. Every time you get a touchdown, which is the ball that's in the hoop, you kick a field goal that goes to the uprights. And the reason it's called QB54 is you're playing until 54 points. Great concept. Came across the guys, saw a lot of advertisements for them. Big supporters of the military. So I reached out to Mike and Frank Silva, the two guys that are brothers that own QB54, started QB54, and asked them if they wanted to be a sponsor. And they came on board with us last year. 2 years ago, I think. Actually, I think last year might have been the second year that they did it. So they're on again for a third year. It is nothing but quarterbacks and kickers. That's it. That's all you're drafting. So last year, it was 4 rounds, and what we ended up doing was we ended up with 24 teams, I think, last year. So we did an AFC and an NFC. Your logos aren't super creative like we did with the redrafts or with the dynasty leagues. It's just it's a quick little template that I put together of a football jersey. You pick a quarterback or a kicker that you want to represent your team by that jersey. And we just happened to get lucky enough last year that we had 12 AFC quarterbacks and kickers and 12 NFC quarterbacks and kickers. And that's how we separated the league last year. And we kept the scoring really simple. So again, you only drafted 4 people. And it did not matter what your roster looked like, but you needed to start a quarterback and a kicker every single week. And we kept the scoring really simple, very similar to what QB54 Arm and Leg League rules are, where every passing touchdown by a quarterback was 6. They got nothing for their legs, no rushing touchdowns. And for the kickers, it was 3 points for a field goal and 1 point for an extra point. They got no negative points last year. And then if a quarterback threw an interception, it was negative 3 points. That was it. That was all the scoring was. So we're going to change that up a little bit. Still in question is the number of roster spots that we're going to do for the year. I am still leaning towards doing 6. And the reason I'm thinking about doing 6 this year is because we are looking to get 54 teams this year to go along with the theme of QB54. So what that will look like is 6 conferences, regions, realms, if you will, of 9 teams each. And then you're going to play everybody inside once, and then they're going to be one team outside your conference, region, realm one time. So it's 8 teams inside, and then with 6 conferences, you'll play 5 other teams that are out. So you'll play 13 weeks. We will go into a conference playoff, which will be week 14, and then the playoffs will be 15, 16, and 17. In this case, we're going to take the playoffs all the way out to 16 in the QB54 Arm and Leg League. So the goal, the thought process is with 9 teams in each one of them, if somebody wanted to go balanced roster of 3 quarterbacks and 3 kickers, that's 27. There are 5 available other quarterbacks, 5 available other kickers that are out there. And if people start seeing a run on a position, they go out and draft that position as well to make sure they get a player right so they don't run out of them. But then again, you will still start only 1 quarterback and 1 kicker. Scoring will be slightly different. We are going to add decimal points in this year, and we are going to do negative points for kickers this year, which we did not do last year. So the decimal points for scoring on the kicker side will match exactly what we do in redraft, where if it is a 35-yard field goal, instead of it only being 3 points, it's now 3.5. Anything 40 and above, of course, is the normal 4 point, whatever it would be, 49, 4.9, blah, blah, blah. The additional thing that we're going to do on the quarterback side, if it is a pick 6, it is going to be negative 6 points for the kicker or for the quarterback this year. Pick 6 is going to be negative 6. On the positive side for the quarterback, when they throw a touchdown this year, they'll still get the 6 points for the touchdown, and the decimal points that will come at the end will be the yards for that touchdown. So let's say they throw a 54-yard touchdown. They will get 6.54 points for that touchdown. So that's where the differences will be in the scoring for next year. So I think that part is settled. The only part that's got to be still worked out is possibly the rosters.
And how much is that to play this
$20.
year?
$20 this year.
And
now here's what go ahead.
How many members do we have currently in there?
20 in there right now, 20 out of the 54. So what you will be playing for is the QB54 Arm and Leg League chairs at the end. That's what the champion is getting. And with us upping the price this year from $10 to $20, that will give us more cash to be able to give out in prizes at the end of this year as well. So there will be more prizes to be given out. I think last year we only paid out the top. I think we paid out 2, 3, and 4, and the chairs were the number 1 prize. I don't remember if we put cash with that or not. Yeah, the negative 6 points really makes you put thought into who you play at quarterback. I guess if you're really worried about somebody throwing a pick 6, it will. But we figured that would.
Jameis Winston, you want 30 interceptions in your season?
Yeah, you want 34. I think everybody always says 30 for 30, but I think you really want 34 and 30 or something like that. So for the whole year, you ended up positive 4 over that, so you end up with 24 points for the whole year.
Yeah, I don't know how many of the 30 were pick 6s though.
True. Yeah, so something to think about. So, hey, Stan, if you're interested, you're still out there watching. The rule set is out there. If you go to fsa-fr.com, you see it coming across the bottom of your screen right now, and you click on Fantasy in the upper right-hand corner. There is a drop down there that will give you the QB54 Arm and Leg League page. You can go out there and you can go check out the rule set, and it's there for you. Basically, everything that I just explained to you is already there. Like I said, the only thing that we've got a question mark on right now is what are the roster sizes going to look like? Yeah, Damien, only for the pick 6. It's still going to be negative 3 for an interception, negative 6 for the pick 6. So other than the roster sizes, I think everything else is there.
So images.
Gosh. Yeah, let's talk about that and finish off the show with my big oopsie oops. So those of you that are on Discord know that on 1 May, I purchased a big logo package to be able to get the rest of our members push through for FSA redraft, and the goal was to have everybody done by March 30th or May 31st, which was 2 days ago, right? We're still 15 short, as you've heard us say a couple times in the show tonight. And once I purchased that package, it said that we had until June 1st to get all 50 images that came with that package. So Kevin and I, on the last day, are online looking at all kinds of images to download. And I think we had like 36 more still to grab or something like that. And I literally spent almost until midnight grabbing images that we could use, only to find out that when I logged in on that last day to grab the rest of those images, and I went in to look at what the package was and how many images we had, I saw that auto renewal was turned on. So I shut it off. And somehow, even though we had until 1 June for that package to run out, on 31 May, which is the same day we're looking for all of these things, later in the evening, at noon on that day, it re-upped for another month. Meaning, we now have until July 1st to grab another 50 images to use for our redraft teams. So if you are out there and you are a redraft member who still has not given me an idea of what you want for your logo, or if you're watching this now because somebody out there has got you that is recruiting you or trying to recruit you and you're wanting to join, we basically now have another 30 days again, 28 days to grab 50 more images. Auto renew is absolutely shut off at this point, so it doesn't happen again. But we do have the ability to be able to go out and grab 50 more images. So if you're thinking about a rebrand, if you're thinking about images that would work well for FSA, you've got any ideas of anything that would help us out. If you're one of, I think we've got 7 or 8 teams that have signed up already that still haven't told me what they want for their logo. If you're one of those, get with me so we can use these up. What I don't want is on June 30th, June 28th, June 29th, spending until midnight downloading images again, just to make sure that we don't use or lose them kind of thing. We get them all done.
Yeah, that was not fun. That was racking our brain. What could we possibly use?
But your ideas were sound, man. What you came up with was really great. And tomorrow I'll be spending a lot of time at the house as Misty is having a small outpatient procedure. So I will be home nursing her while I can get away, probably sitting in front of my phone looking up images. Heather has a very good question. Any updates on King of the Castle? I've got a little bit of knowledge for you for King of the Castle. Bill, Kevin, and I have sat down and had some conversations about King of the Castle. It is still going to be a thing. It's going to be one of those ones that we push a little bit later on as we're still trying to fill the QB54 and the DOD league. However, Kevin, we have to have an offline conversation about King of the Castle because I received an email from my fantasy league. I think me saying that enough is probably to let you know 10 June is the day. So we got to figure out what we're going to do.
Yeah, we've changed what we want to do so many times with this.
Yeah. So we got
layout.
We got about a week to finally put it to bed and figure out what we're going to do with it. Damien says Clash of the Clans. There was some thought process of doing something close to that with King of the Castle, Damien, but that's going to require us to make sure that we get a full 32 teams in there as well. So 16 just like we had last year. Yeah, 16 like we had last year and 32 to be able to do a Clash of the Clans or a Clash of the Castles or something like that.
If we could get 4 sets, that would be my goal. Damien may know better than I in the Twitterverse what the gauge is on a league like this would be. But if we could get 4 sets of 16, the Clash of Clans idea would actually work out perfect. Even 3, but 4 would look better.
I think what the point of what we got, or at least the last conversation that we had, was the play will be just like it was towards the end of the year last year. Of course, we only got to play 7 weeks last year as we were beta testing it at the end of the year. So the play would be very similar to what we had last year. So you'll still play internal to your castle. You'd still need 4 consecutive weeks in a row to be able to be the king. What the waiver wire looks like will be like it was at the end of the year. What pillaging looks like will be like what it looked like at the end of last year. But the clash part, or the clash of the castles, or whatever we want to look at, or whatever we want to call that, will be is an entire castle scoring for the week will be tallied together, all 16 teams, against the other castles 16, and that will be the clash of the castles to see who had the ultimate castle at the end of the season, still to look to figure out what that prize is going to look like. But as a awesome participation gift, I guess is what we'll call it, Bill and I are working on something for that, which will be super, super cool. So it will not be free when we do get King of the Castle going, though. Last year we did it for free as a beta testing. We think we beta tested it enough the last 7 weeks of the season to be able to get us the rule set to move forward with in 2021. What the cost is going to be, we still don't know yet. That's one of the conversations we still need to have. But once we get King of the Castle going, in fact, King of the Castle is a thing. If you all really wanted to go out and look at it, the page is still out there for you to look at. Very much a thing. We want to make sure it looks a little bit more aesthetically pleasing for 2021. And we'll get that going very, very shortly.
And Brian's audio goes out once again. Can never have a clean show with this guy. All the time. More issues. He continues to yell.
One of these days you're going to tell me that it goes out and it really doesn't go out, and I'm going to start swearing really, really loud. And we're going to have to put a disclaimer on the show that we had explicit talk during the show. We have to put an NC-17 rating on it or something like that. Yeah, I guess that's about it, man. We definitely talked about where we're at membership-wise. We talked about what the redraft playoffs are going to look like, what the redraft looks like in 2022. We talked about my happy little accident with the art. We mentioned all of the other leagues that are out there, so we'll run through them again. We've got the Auction IDP League, got the QB54 Arm and Leg League, we got the VRV DOD League, and Heather brought it up, we got the King of the Castle League as well. And then don't forget, we got 15 spots left for the redraft league as well, so make sure you guys get in on that. So we mentioned it already. Next week's broadcast, we will not be doing it on Wednesday. We will be doing it on Tuesday during the Average Bros time slot. We're going to be talking about the Dynasty draft grades for Alpha through Delta. And then the following week after that, I think we'll be back on Phonetically Real broadcast on Wednesday, and we'll talk about Echo and Foxtrot then. Sound about right?
You got it.
All right, so 8 June will be the next broadcast between the Average Bros and the Phonetically Real broadcast. Empty Wagon Guys will be on again this Friday going into Saturday, which is the 4th, going into the 5th, East Coast time at midnight. So make sure you give them a watch and a listen. And then we would like to thank all of our sponsors. Football Darts, our broadcast sponsor, Nature Coast Tailgating, which is our World Bowl sponsor, QB54, which is our Arm and Leg League sponsor, Shell and Mel's Boutique, Cranky Veteran Candle Company, Southern Siren Sugar Scrub, Finger Lakes Mercantile, Redwood Durables, all bowl game sponsors. And then, of course, the Recasts, who are the official music of FSA. If you liked the show tonight, make sure you go out and like, share, subscribe on all of our social media outlets. And then, Kevin, you got any last minute words?
No, everybody have a wonderful rest of the week and a great weekend. It's supposed to be nice up here in the Mid-Atlantic region.
You're not allowed to call it that anymore. Not allowed to call it that anymore.
This year I can.
Okay.
Yes, I can this year.
Okay.
We got one more year. Damien down in the Black Bear region. I wish you no luck. Hopefully you come strolling across one yourself. Take that for what you will. Everybody else, have a great night.
Man, we forgot to tell that story. We'll have to tell that the next time we're on the air. Hey, everybody, have a great night. And don't forget, we are Phonetically Real. Good night, everyone.